Okay, so let's get into that actually. In this film, did you both direct it? You were both directing the film?
Yes, in this film, we both directed the film.
So how do you determine...
I'm sorry, could I get a verbal...
You know, I'm just going along for the ride right now. You can tell, you know, I need to say much.
Yes, go ahead, answer the question though.
No, of course, we directed it both. I just follow her lead because, you know, she's so much more, you know, knowledgeable in the arts of making film, and I just want to hang out and just make coffee, you know.
So how did you guys decide in terms of like whose role was what? Who was the, you know, as you were saying that she's the leader, but in terms of how the
I got to stop you right there.
okay.
That was all in jest. Let me tell you, chain hang, man. Chain hang, dude. Come on.
Oh, you run in the house.
Yeah, I mean,
you wear the pants and the...
I am the man, for one. So that just starts me at a certain level.
Right.
We're partners.
Right.
Yeah, it's like we
50-50.
both bring something to it. And, you know, it's the thing of, we didn't have to decide beyond the fact of just knowing your role in the production of what you can do, what are your strengths, and at the same time, what is your assignment in this project? Like, her assignment in this project was to help produce, just like I was supposed to help produce. She's supposed to act, and that, like, you know, is a strong, you know, amount of time every day as well. And she's supposed to direct, you know, co-direct with me, and we put together ideas and then, you know, fuse them together and see what happens, and that ultimately became the movie, ISIS Dynasty.
Okay.
Out soon.
So let's say that there's a scene that's supposed to be done. How do you navigate toward coming to an agreement on how it should be done? Like if one person sees that it should be this way and another person sees it should be another way.
I mean, we're pretty much flexible, and a lot of this stuff we had already talked out before we even started shooting it. I mean, even when the script was being written, we were together every day just figuring out exactly where everything was going to go. And, you know, before we shot, we usually, you know, saw each other. Like, she was pretty much at my house 24/7 almost anyway. So we were just always trying to just understand what we had to do next, I would say. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this right now, so you do that. It was just more like, okay, I know you're going to do this, so I'm going to do that.
We had a very fluid process in terms of, you know, just sharing the directing, sharing the producing, like Corey said. You know, we had our good cop, bad cop moments. I know his strengths, he knows my strengths, and weaknesses and so forth. And so I think we really played that up. There were times when I was acting, and I literally would, you know, stop, lift my head up off the pillow and be like, can you turn the camera around? Okay, I think we need to go in closer, or we need to pull back, or we need to, don't forget we do X, Y, Z. But we came prepared. We had a shot list. We had a storyboard, which I think is really important before we started shooting. So we were in agreement in terms of the visual style, in terms of the tone. There were times when I always like to say, you know, with tone, I would say, Corey, you can have 10 dick jokes, not 40. And I would have to pull that back, you know, in terms of...
You know,
and
that female crybaby stuff.
Yeah, in terms of this is a film...
All dick jokes. That's how it should be. That's a great film, man. Come on. Have you seen Buffalo 66?
In terms of... And there were moments that were not honest for the character, that being a woman and playing a writer-director in Hollywood who gives herself 30 days to make it or break it, you know. So there were things that I felt like we needed to adjust, and he, you know, we would just have a come to Jesus and talk about that and move on, you know.
Why did you choose to wear all those hats? You know, you were acting, directing, all those things. What compelled you to, first of all, do the acting? Like, why that?
Honestly, I decided to act because, one, I've always had the acting bug, and I just wasn't honest about it. I come from a family of educators, you know, and just and artists too. And so my mom, my grandfather was a saxophone player back in the day with Jimmy Lunsford's band. So I think my mom, who's a teacher, was like, do anything but be an actress. You know, that was really, when I was talking about getting caught up in films, I was caught up in the acting, used to come home and be in front of the mirror. But there was this drive to be behind the camera and be a storyteller and to frame things in a certain way. And I just decided to stay in that role. But there was always that seed that was there. And if I was going to be honest about it too, this was also very much based almost on a true story of my life. I was in LA, I came out of film school and directing music videos. I was rep by Billy Woodruff's film production company. And, I was getting out the blocks and doing short films and whatnot. And so that was just my zone, but I knew that I could bring something else to the table. And and the few things that I had done, it was a good experience, but I felt like also our schedule was honestly so crazy. Who else was going to be available? Who else was going to do this? And then Corey really talked me into it at a certain point, and
that's where we're at. That's
let me know it was okay.
Answer.
Let me get to all of that.
I told her she was going to be in this, and she was going to co-direct this, and we was going to make this film because your life reflects what's going on. That's why this movie is based on a true story. Based on an almost true story.
Based on an almost true story. So Corey really was just like, why would you have somebody else play this? And also, it was a vehicle for me to have people hear what I had to say.
Main character's name is Isis, yes?
Yes, Isis Angelo.
Now, let me ask you a question here. Did you find that you have to think about that character in different ways, like in one way as a director and another way as the actress? You have to think of that character in two different ways when you're in those roles?
I think yes and no, honestly. I think when, Isis Angelo, the character, as a character, when I was acting, I had to just focus on that and be in the moment once I said action or Corey said action. And I had to, and she was like me, but also very different in terms of just where her journey, basically. And she was just very different me and nuanced in different ways. Like I said, she was a heightened version. And then some things were just, of course, totally fabricated, made up. It's a narrative film. So definitely the character, I had to think about that as an actor and then take off that hat at times and put on my directing hat and step back and look at how is the story unfolding for the audience? How are we seeing the character? What are her arcs? Where are we in the, 3-act structure? And kind of step back. Sometimes those two came together and, they were seamless, and then other times they were just totally separate and kind of crazy. As a director, I would know what I wanted, and I would know the big picture of what I wanted to see. But as an actor, sometimes I didn't know how to get there because I'm directing myself. So sometimes it was like a oxymoron or a catch-22 or just a mind fuck, So there were those times I'd have the big picture, but it was just like, okay, how do I get there? How do am I getting there? So I'd literally stop. I'd look at the playback. I'd talk to Corey. My co-producer, Mo Jordan, who came out from New York to be on set. He is a trained actor from the New School in New York. Really great actor, someone I respect. So he kind of was my acting coach. So there were times I'd have to almost have another way to look at it. I knew what I wanted from the big Google Maps, perspective as a director, like this is where we are and this is what I want to get to and this is the essence. So it's just like technically am I getting there, and then, from as bringing that actor along, I could work with somebody outside of myself. But when it's you, it's kind of, your alter ego all in one. So it's just quite a quandary sometimes, honestly. And then sometimes you're throwing in producing, so I'm wondering, did we call Golden and does she know her call time? And, is the caterer going to come and we need to write this check? Or, or are you going to cook, 60 hamburgers.
As an independent filmmaker, you just have to wear a lot of different hats, and you can never sit there and say, okay, I'm only going to do this one thing, because a lot of times you're understaffed, underpaid, don't have enough time, and really just got to figure it out for the best of the project for itself.